Any specific questions around how long any one job should take, or, understanding of it?
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Question about that timeline. Is that for what typical size house are those deadlines for? And why I ask is because for me, I know I did hardwood on the second floor, but it took him a long time to do my hardwood floors.
Well, he's slow, so remember, that. So everything he did, you would just want to discount as not being right. He's not good at it. I mean, that's all. So you figured that out with him, that he was slow and not very efficient. So a standard house is what this is going to be based on. Make
So
sure.
roughly like what, 1,400 square feet or
Switch my
just
head.
curious.
Usually, most of our standard houses are going to be about 1,000, about 1,700 square feet. So yeah, if they're taking a long time, they just don't know what they're doing. I used to do flooring for a living, and if I was doing, like, say, a whole house, like say I was doing the whole first floor like we standardly do, that first floor would take me about 2 days.
Okay.
If it took me longer, I wouldn't make any money because they were only paying me for about 2 days worth of work. So with my crew size and the people, what I paid them per day, I couldn't really work more than 2 days on that and be profitable. But I was a flooring guy, so I knew how to do flooring. And that's the people we want to hire to do flooring, is someone that's either really quick at it and efficient, or it doesn't have to be a flooring guy if he's quick and efficient. But ideally, if we look for someone like me who did flooring, I did that exact type of flooring too. Yeah, I could do all that. I could get those steps done. It'd probably be 2, 3 days max. And I'm assuming he took a lot longer than that, I would guess, if you're talking about it. But that's probably just a lack of, like, knowing what they're doing.
That timeline there, is that in chronological order of how you should be doing those things? Like,
For the most part, yes. Some of those things are a little interchangeable. So some of those things can be done anytime you want, like landscaping doesn't necessarily have to be done at the end. Doesn't necessarily could be done at the beginning. If your roof's not leaking, but you need to replace it, you don't have to do it before you start anything else. You do it when you can fit a roofer in. But there's certain things that are not very flexible. Like obviously you need to demo waterproof frame before you can do electric, plumbing, and HVAC rough in. So you got to get all the framing done and do all that stuff. But for the most part, that is in an order. Some of those things could be done at the same time, and some are flexible. I need almost a color coding to say these are flexible items, because when you're scheduling and you're doing project management, it's nice to know the things that have room for flexibility. Because let's say that we get someone who doesn't show up and there's a flexible item that can be moved up, then I'll move that flexible item up to fill time in so I can have people working on my home. So let's say that, let's say I need my guys to do sheetrock, but I'm waiting on the plumber to finish, like do finish plumbing or do the finish of rough in, and they don't show up. So now we're just sitting and waiting, right? So let me just hit that emit button. So now we're sitting and waiting, and we're waiting on that person. So what I would do then is maybe move up the landscaping, move up to paint the exterior of the house. A lot of the exterior work is very flexible. It could be done at the end of the job, it could be done at the beginning. We've had times where we had the complete outside look completely done, and the inside was like just roughed in essentially. Because what we usually like to do is, why the electric, plumbing, and HVAC is being done, and my, say, crew of carpenters don't have much to do, I'll send them outside and have to paint the outside of the house, do any decks, fix any siding, get everything looking good, paint the gutters, and clean the yard up in general. It's kind of nice too, if you're not pulling permits, it makes the house look done, so it don't look like a train wreck anymore. And but it's just getting work done, right? All we're always thinking is, like, we have like, say we have 42 units of work to do. The key for us is, if we're having 42 units of work, then we want to make sure we're getting that work done effectively.
Also, something to mention, Mike, about exterior work, like you said, because we're now approaching winter. Yeah, things on the outside took a little bit longer for me because it got really cold outside. So we had to touch up paint and all that. We had to wait until it got a certain temperature. So
Again,
just
that's
to
your
mention
guy
that.
telling you all kind of fake stuff. So we'll have to clear your cobwebs out from what he tells you. You just buy paint. You can, like, so there is times when it's really cold, you can't do it, but I
It
happen
was
to,
like 30 degrees, like the
30's
paint
30's a
started.
little too cold, but there's
Right.
many days there was only about a week that we had like 30 degrees for a week.
Yes.
Other than
Yes.
that, we had totally fine weather. A lot of people will tell you if it's 40 or 45 degrees, you can't do it. You can. It's a little more difficult to work in that, but in 30, it starts to become problematic. And there is
Right.
paints you can buy that are a little more, conducive. So what I always do when it's wintertime, and it's a real thing for us in the north, we always do want to pay attention to the weather a little bit, because like right now, I got a couple houses that as soon as the rain stops, I'm like, get them painted, because like next week it could be cold all the way until January for all we know. And it would be, but I've had my guys paint 30, 35, 40-degree weather. Just wait for a sunny day that's like 40 and they'll get out and paint and get it done. And they can do that, by the way. And they're quick and efficient about it. There's some times where we'll have long bouts of like just really cold weather. But when we're in that time of year, I would just say anytime you get a couple good days, you should get that paint done. I agree with you. So Samir, good advice. And that's very, very
Yeah,
true.
from experience too, because I was out there trying to paint the trim of the front door area, the black, and it was like, it had to be like 40 degrees and I'm trying to paint and it just was not working because it was like cold. So
Yeah. So what we do is you can warm the paint up in the inside. There's paint that's meant for cold you can buy. If you get in that like a really tight space, there's a couple things you can do, but for the most part, just look for the few warm days. But you don't need 60 and 70-degree days
Right.
because we might not see those for a while.
Exactly.
But there is always seems to be, at least in Maryland where we are, seems to be always like we always get by. We've been doing this 10 years and we've never had a house like, well, we can't finish it because the paint's not done. So I would say that like painting the outside is something I start looking from the beginning of the flip in the winter. In the summer, I don't worry about spring, summer, and fall because we're always going to find, good weather whenever it's good time. But when we do get into that 4 or 5 months of winter, like 4 months of like the really cold time, then yeah, that's probably something you want to start being thoughtful of in the beginning of the flip. So really good advice. It's not quite a problem yet, but will definitely be a problem soon, like a real problem soon. Because like right then, even when they were saying it's taking a long time to paint because it's cold, ultimately you could just do it a couple days later when it's warmer the following week. As long as it's not pushed to the very end of the job, you should. That's why we make it flexible. But flexible doesn't mean push it to the end. It means as soon as you have downtime in your flip and you got extra manpower, push that extra manpower to the flexible item. So something's always being done. Like, you have like, say you have 42 units of work, right? We just always want to be nibbling away at them units of work we need to get done.